Hello and welcome to World News on the Hour here on TVP World with me, Hashim Kumar. Belarusians are heading to the polling stations today, but with little hope for change. In what has been internationally dubbed as SHAM elections, they are expected to make Alexander Lukashenko, known as Europe's last dictator and a close ally of Vladimir Putin, a president once again. The European Parliament has called on the EU and its member states to continue not to recognise him as president. Lukashenko has been in power since 1994. His political opponents and critics are often charged with extremism and sent to prison, and often put in solitary confinement. According to the human rights watchdog Vyasna, more than 3,270 people have been sentenced for participating in protests against the falsified election results in 2020. If Orbán really blocks European sanctions, it will be clear that he is playing on Putin's team. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk wrote on X in response to the Hungarian Prime Minister's announcement of a possible veto on the extension of sanctions against Russia. If Prime Minister Viktor Orbán really blocks European sanctions at a key moment for the war, it'll be absolutely clear that in this big game for the security and future of Europe, he is playing in Putin's team, not in ours, with all the consequences of this fact, posted Tusk on X on Saturday, commenting on Orbán's recent refusal to support the extension of EU sanctions on Russia unless Ukraine resumes the transit of Russian gas to Europe. In response to Tusk's post, Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Srigato wrote on Facebook, "We represent Hungarian interests. We don't want to continue to pay the price for other people's wars, and we won't allow anyone to threaten our security of energy supply." On Saturday night, Russian troops launched a drone attack on the Kyiv region. The attack severely damaged a multi-story building. On the same day, Russian forces also shelled 3 districts of Kharkiv. In Kyiv region, Ukraine's State Emergency Service deployed personnel who successfully rescued 5 people, including 2 children, from the building. A 5-year-old child was also injured in the attack and taken to hospital for treatment. 7 vehicles and 42 rescuers were working to assist the affected people. The attacks on Kharkiv left 3 people injured. The victims, 2 women and 1 man, received on-site medical treatment. The ongoing strikes continue to target civilian infrastructure, further escalating the impact of the conflict on residents of Kharkiv and Kyiv. Continuing the theme of the war in Ukraine, a Russian oil refinery was reportedly attacked by Ukrainian forces. Large fires and clouds of smoke were captured on video footage of the Ryazan oil refinery, one of the largest such facilities in the country. This marked the second attack on the refinery within the last 2 days. The attack was reportedly carried out using drones. The German capital was the scene of a protest yesterday against what the organisers call a shift to the right after the collapse of Olaf Scholz's ruling coalition last year. Germany is headed for a snap election in less than a month. The far-right Alternative for Germany party kicked off its election campaign at noon yesterday with a special guest, Elon Musk.
German politics has been strongly influenced by a recent string of violent attacks. The latest one in Aschaffenburg left a 2-year-old boy and a 41-year-old man dead. The alleged perpetrator was Afghani.
It is very sad. One is afraid to go outside, honestly.
Subsequent attacks by immigrants have sparked a reaction from the German government.
We have ensured that things are changing. We have made it easier to be deported.
But despite these measures, illegal migration has become one of the main topics in the election campaign, ahead of a snap parliamentary vote scheduled for February 23rd. The anti-immigrant far-right Alternative for Germany has just launched its election campaign.
Denn wir müssen Deutschland retten.
Because we have to save Germany, because our fatherland has gone into a blatant imbalance. No problem drives people as much as having to watch our cities become increasingly unsafe.
Among the speakers at Saturday's rally was American tech billionaire Elon Musk.
It's okay to be proud to be German. This is a very important principle. It's okay, it's good to be proud of German culture, German values.
The AfD's rally held in Saxony-Anhalt was accompanied by a protest and scuffles with police. In Berlin and Cologne, protests are being held against the rise of the far right in Germany.
30% for Alternative for Germany is 30% too much, and we are here to send out a signal that perhaps 1 or 2 people will reconsider what a rotten party it is.
German opinion polls indicate a likely victory of the Christian Democrats. The AfD has a chance of becoming the second largest party in parliament, while Olaf Scholz's ruling Social Democrats are trailing with an average of only 17% support. Despite the AfD rising in popularity, the party has little chance of becoming a key player, as most of Germany's political class has rejected cooperation with the far right.
We will send this weekend to the parties of Chancellor Scholz's former coalition our requests to change the migration policy that we intend to submit in the Bundestag next week. We will not send anything to the AfD.
With the Christian Democrats leading in the polls, but most likely short of a parliamentary majority, the alliance led by Friedrich Merz could be forced to form a coalition with the Social Democrats, but also the Greens.
A protest marshal was hit by a car amid the intensifying anti-government protests in Serbia. President Alexander Vučić responded to the growing unrest by holding a counter-rally.
This is a clip from the latest anti-government protest in Serbia. The injured protest marshal was immediately transported to the emergency center by ambulance, having allegedly suffered skull fractures. Students launched a series of anti-government strikes after a Novi Sad railway station roof collapsed back in November, resulting in the death of 15 people. In the protesters' view, the tragedy was caused by corruption, nepotism, and poor construction practices. The lack of accountability for the disaster has ignited a surge of protests, which have since expanded in both scale and intensity. Tens of thousands responded to the students' call for a general strike on Friday, with schools, bookstores, and theaters across Serbia closing their doors in solidarity.
It seems to me that the people are increasingly waking up, as you see by the growing number of people taking to the streets. They seem less afraid about their jobs or threats from the authorities, which leads to a daily increase in our numbers on the streets.
This strike, of course, signifies our endorsement of students and is aimed at transforming the state of the nation and the state of education, which is our joint interest here. First of all, we're here to support the students and then, if feasible, to change the state of education.
As the anti-government protests intensify across Serbia, the country's president held a counter-rally to demonstrate that both him and the ruling Serbian Progressive Party, which he founded, still enjoy public support. Referring to the students' protest, he said,
Our people know, my people know, that Serbia is attacked from outside and inside.
In Novi Sad, 13 individuals, among them a former Minister of Infrastructure, have been indicted for their involvement in the roof collapse incident. However, the court is yet to approve the indictment. The government denies responsibility for the deaths.
59 state and international organizations' delegations have confirmed their participation in Monday's commemoration of the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the German Nazi Auschwitz concentration camp. According to the Auschwitz Museum, the guests of honor will be the survivors, of whom around 50 are expected to attend. Invitations to the commemoration were sent by the Auschwitz Museum to ambassadors of EU countries and other states supporting the Auschwitz-Birkenau Foundation. Russia will be absent due to its international isolation following the aggression in Ukraine. Representatives of European institutions as well as other international organizations will be present, including the UN and the Council of Europe. The museum said that around 3,000 people will attend the ceremony at the site of the camp. A man making online threats against the US president has been arrested near Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence in Florida after the FBI threat center received a tip. The Florida man, Shannon Dispara Atkins, aged 46, was charged with one count of making written or electronic threats to kill, do bodily injury, or conduct a mass shooting or act of terrorism. Atkins is a resident near the Mar-a-Lago Trump residence. He was arrested after a traffic stop. The local police force said the Secret Service will determine whether any federal charges will be filed. Mexico has refused the Trump administration's request to allow a U.S. military aircraft deporting migrants to land in the country. The new U.S. administration has ordered 2 similar flights to Guatemala, each flight deporting about 80 migrants. Mexico's decision to deny the request for landing of a deportation flight has been confirmed by both Mexican and U.S. authorities. No reason has been given for the denial. The deportations follow one of the first orders issued by U.S. President Donald Trump as he took over the Oval Office. The Pentagon reportedly plans to deport more than 5,000 migrants from the U.S. using military aircraft. India is celebrating the Republic Day this Sunday. The holiday commemorates the adoption of the Constitution of the Republic of India and the country's transition to a republic, which came into effect on January the 26th, 1950. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi laid a wreath at the National War Memorial in New Delhi to mark the beginning of the Republic Day commemorations. A traditional military parade took place on the Kartavya Path in the capital, showcasing some of India's finest military hardware. Republic Day is also celebrated with political speeches, cultural events, and various ceremonies. And that brings us to the end of this news bulletin, but we will be back on the hour. Until then, goodbye.